The Brexit referendum held on June 23rd in 2016 was a significant event in British history. It involved the decision of whether the United Kingdom should remain in or leave the European Union. And disinformation played a role in shaping public opinion during the campaign, with various claims and misinformation being spread by different groups. One prominent example of disinformation during the Brexit campaign was the claim that leaving the EU could free up £350 million per week, which could be redirected to the NHS. This figure was emblazoned on a bus used by the Leave campaign and became a focal point of their messaging. However, the figure was misleading as it did not take into account the UK's rebate and other EU funding received by various sectors. Furthermore, after the referendum, prominent figures within the Leave campaign acknowledged that the 350 million figure was not accurate. Another disinformation tactic used during the campaign was the claim that Turkey was on the verge of joining the EU and Brexit was necessary to prevent this. This claim stoked fears of increased immigration and highlighted concerns about security. However, at the time of the referendum, Turkey's membership negotiations had been ongoing for several years, with no immediate prospect of joining, and it's even worse today. Nevertheless, the claim became widespread and influenced public sentiment. Disinformation related to immigration was prevalent during the campaign. Claims were made that leaving the EU would allow the UK to regain control over its borders and reduce immigration levels. Some of these claims were quite exaggerated, as EU membership did not eliminate the UK's ability to control its borders entirely. However, the promise of stronger border control resonated with many voters who were concerned about the impact of immigration on jobs, public services, and cultural identity. Both sides of the campaign accused each other of spreading fear and misinformation. The Remain campaign warned of potential negative consequences such as economic instability, job losses, and reduced influence on the world stage if the UK left the EU. On the other hand, the Leave campaign accused the Remain side of exaggerating these potential negative outcomes and engaging in Project Fear tactics to scare voters into staying. Well, you see today what happened. But one of the hottest topics after the referendum was also the campaign financing. The financing of the Leave campaign during the 2016 Brexit referendum in the UK was primarily supported by several key individuals and organizations. The two main campaign groups advocating for leaving the EU were Vote Leave and Leave.eu. The largest financial contributor to the Leave campaign was Vote Leave, which was officially designated as the Leave campaign group. It received substantial donations from various sources, including individuals, businesses, and organizations. And first, we have to talk about Vote Leave. Vote Leave was the designated Leave campaign group, as I said, in favor of leaving the EU. It received donations from various sources, with some individuals being among the notable contributors. One was Aaron Banks, a businessman and co-founder of Leave.eu, and Banks donated £8.1 million to the campaign, making him the largest single donor. And Peter Cruddas, a businessman and former Conservative Party treasurer, he donated £1.5 million to Vote Leave. And then we have Stuart Wheeler, a businessman and former Conservative Party donor, and he contributed £600,000 to the campaign. And Michael Hintze, an Australian-born businessman and hedge fund manager, and he donated £100,000. Vote Leave also received funds from smaller individual donations as well as loans from political figures such as Michael Gove and Dominic Cummings, who played prominent roles in this campaign. And of course we have to talk about Leave.eu as well. Leave.eu was a separate campaign group advocating for leaving the EU, but was not designated as the official lead campaign. It was financially supported also by Aaron Banks and his company Better for the Country Limited. Banks donated approximately another 8 million to Leave.eu, making him one of the largest financial contributors to the overall Leave campaign. Leave.eu faced criticism for potential breaches of campaign finance rules, and investigations were conducted into its financial activities. It's important to note that the issue of campaign financing during the Brexit referendum has been subject to scrutiny and investigations by regulatory bodies such as the Electoral Commission. Allegations of potential violations of campaign finance rules have emerged, leading to fines and legal proceedings against certain individuals, but also organizations involved in both the Leave and Remain campaigns. There have been allegations and investigations into possible Russian interference in the 2016 Brexit referendum, including claims of financial support for the Leave campaign. It's important to note that the definitive evidence linking Russia directly to financing the Leave campaign has not been conclusively proven yet, although I personally have a firm opinion on this. In 2018, it was revealed that banks had held 2 meetings with Russian officials, including the Russian ambassador, during the Brexit campaign. And these meetings raised concerns about potential Russian influence on the campaign. The UK's Electoral Commission investigated the donations made by Aaron Banks to Leave.eu. They found that Banks' donations exceeded the permissible limit for political contributions, but did not uncover any evidence of Russian funding or interference. There have been broader concerns about Russia's use of social media and online platforms to spread disinformation and sow discord during the Brexit referendum. Several investigations and studies have documented instances of online disinformation campaigns, but proving a direct link to Russian state funding or coordination remains challenging. And there are ongoing investigations. Despite the lack of conclusive evidence, investigations into potential Russian interference in the Brexit referendum have continued. The UK government and intelligence agencies have been actively working to counter disinformation and safeguard the electoral process. The UK's Intelligence and Security Committee, the ISC, published a report titled Russia, which examined Russia's activities in the UK more broadly. The ISC is a parliamentary committee responsible for overseeing the work of the UK's intelligence and security agencies. The Russia report aimed to assess the extent of Russian interference in the UK's democratic processes, including elections and referendums. And the report highlighted several key findings related to Russian activities in the UK. Among them, the report confirmed that Russian hackers had targeted various UK institutions, including government departments, think tanks, and political parties. It also noted that the UK had been slow in recognizing the threat and responding to it. The report raised concerns about Russia's use of disinformation campaigns to manipulate public opinion in the UK. It noted the exploitation of social media platforms and highlighted instances of disinformation during the Scottish independence referendum in 2014 and the EU referendum in 2016. The report suggested that Russian influence in UK politics went beyond attempts to interfere in specific electoral events. It pointed out that some individuals with Russian connections had gained access to influential people and political circles, raising questions about potential undue influence. Have a look at the House of Lords. The report made several recommendations to the UK government to counter Russian interference, but also to strengthen cybersecurity measures and address vulnerabilities in the UK's democratic processes. It called for greater transparency in political funding, but also in improved cooperation between intelligence agencies and social media platforms, and increased resilience against disinformation campaigns. It is important to say that while the Russia report highlighted concerns about Russian interference in the UK democracy, it did not provide direct evidence of financial support from Russia to the Brexit campaign specifically. It focused on broader issues related to cyber attacks, disinformation, and influence operations. That being said, it is well documented that various intelligence agencies and government bodies have expressed concerns about Russian attempts to interfere in the democratic processes of several countries, including the United Kingdom. Russian interference typically involves activities such as disinformation campaigns, as I said, but also cyber attacks and attempts to influence public opinion. And I could see it firsthand. The viewers that are on my channel for a longer time know about the attack on my channels that took me out for 2 weeks, and this hacker attack. And you can see those trolls every day that are trying to counter the information I bring in the videos, and which are clearly, although they are pretending to be, they are clearly not UK citizens. I mean in this case UK-born citizens, because you see it on the English, you see it on the topics they bring, how they bring it. And I have this on my other channels as well. And especially when I'm talking about the Ukraine war, the same people sometimes show up and do the same. So it's easier to identify them. But it is nothing new, and it is something that we really have to keep an eye on, and not only in the UK. But if you're interested in more of my topics, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.